Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I represent Bahamian people. I from Nassau, Bahamas, big up Bintan, bro. Boy, I from Bintan, bro. Right between West and Augusta, where them two roads meet, they call it Wilkinson Street. Manners and respect was like a sign blank check. It seems the ones that come in after quick to disrespect. You see, this life in the ghetto never easy. So many hungry days break till it grieve me. But I doing the best I can, trying to turn my dollar to 100 grand. I represent the ghetto.
Good night, Bahamas, and welcome to another episode on Guardian Radio Inside Inner City on this wonderful Friday night. I'm your host, Valentino Brown, a.k.a. Scrooge, or Scroogey, and many other nicknames I have. Daddy, they call me Governor, Senator, so many names because of the leadership that I have established over the years, doing community service in my community for many years. Telephone numbers tonight are 325-4316, 325-4259, 323-62329 is Don. So you don't call on that. You can also look us up on 969 Cable Bahamas. And it's a pleasure to be a host on this wonderful Friday night. Inside the Inner City is a show that premieres every Friday at 6:30 to 8 p.m. We cover a lot of topics around the country that is most important, many things that are not discussed the way we discuss it. I love the callers and the audience that we attract from high society to low society, which we are all people, but it's good to see the contribution from the Bahamian people voicing their opinion on the topics we have on this show. And they do it such in a professional way that we can have discussion on matters that are very, affectionate and important. But we discuss it with a tone of voice where we can reach those and they understand our tone of voice. It's not hostile, it's just facts. Things are going on in our country, and we are making it a priority to make it known to the powers to be and to make some type of headway to solve some of our issues here in the country and around the world. And I just want to thank everyone who listened to Guardian Radio on Inside the Inner City and the hospitality you guys show me when I'm roaming the streets. I am very humbled by it, and I want to say thanks to each and every one of you. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Skeeter Dawn. I always just tell him I was supposed to give him a shout out. He's a government employee. He used to reside in Bintan. I don't know if he still resides in Bintan, but I'd like to give a shout out to Skeeter Dawn. He's a good friend of mine. And we're going to begin the show today on the first half of the show. I just want to talk a little bit about crime, just a little bit about the police snatching. But my real topic today is about climate change and global warming. And what is global warming? Is it climate change, or is climate change global warming? We have some research done by my friend Hugo. He sent some to me, so we'd explain it. And then we'd see what impact we as humans has done over the centuries to create this climate change or global warming. And I want to say to everyone who's listening, bear in mind that humans are at fault with this. It comes down to making mistakes and not recognizing we're making mistakes. And to me, it takes the average human being about 50 years, government about 50 years to realize they have a problem. If you go back in history, many persons have warned us about certain prophecies, and we had great persons who were great engineers like Tesla, and he said many years ago, before he passed away, that his invention is going to revolutionize the world. When he was talking about his invention, many people thought he was crazy, okay? All right? And stuff like that. And then we had many other persons talking about matters. Like, for instance, we just recently had the COVID-19 pandemic. And we had people who were speaking out, who were doctors, who were advocates, community leaders around the world, persons who paid professions, who do their own private practice. And they were challenging the World Health Organization when it was given a mandate to lock down the whole entire world because of COVID-19. And we had many persons who were in the field, doctors, nurses, who were highly educated on the government and taking up for the government and the World Health Organization. And we have private doctors and doctors who probably was a part of the World Organization, but they just know from their expertise dealing with these type of viruses. They knew that this was no more than a pandemic like the flu, but it can be contained. But the requirements that the World Health Organization issued on the world in the lockdown and the 6 feet and etc. Taking the vaccine shot proves to be how we should put it, non-effective. Because we look at it now, those doctors who challenged the World Health Organization and persons who were unvaccinated, who spoke on the matter and said that they were not getting vaccinated, it seems that they were right, because we're going back to normal now as we speak. Now, the current circumstances with the COVID-19 situation, it was worldwide, like I said. We saw the governor in Florida. He fought against it hard, and Florida's the only free state in the United States of America what defied the World Health Organization, and they challenged Dr. Fauci, and then they were right. So we had people who were speaking the truth, but were pushed aside because they don't have the power, of the government. And we've seen it over the years, spoke about things about to come. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that part, because I have a person who's very, very important to the world, and he talked about climate change and global warming. And for many years, he spoke on the matter. The world started to pay attention to him after he started to travel the world, make his documentary, and by combining all those documentaries together in the publicity, he gained world recognition as a humanitarian. And his goal was to educate the world on the importance of saving the rainforest, saving the animals, saving the fishes, saving the trees, saving every living insect that man has created, because he said all of it is connected. And I'm going to talk about it in the second half of the show. So let me just start off real quick. I was talking about a few weeks ago about the circumstances surrounding our country when it comes to our tourism industry in the country. And I stated that, if you look at the overall statistics about the country, you would see where we have a black-on-black crime. But we would hear when advertised and the travel advisory given out around the world about the Bahamas, we'd see the Bahamas as a crime-infested country, especially national problems, which is actually true when it comes to black-on-black crime. We have over 100 plus murders. We have numerous armed robberies that I can't even count. We have sexual abuse, threats of harm, rape. It's high. It's very high in the country, I must say. If you judge it by international standard, the Bahamas is actually a conflict zone. But a conflict zone, nonetheless, it's still a safe place for our visitors. And I stated that if you look at the 100+ murders that we have occur in the capital and some places on the Family Island, like our second largest Family Island, Grand Bahama, and then you have a little bit of Arbor going on, you see 1 or 2 murders occurring in these particular islands where we are not seeing these type of incidents. And I stated that if you look at statistics, with the 100+ murders that we have per year in the capital, you would see, non-inclusive of American tourists, Chinese tourists, and European tourists coming to the country, we won't have fatality. Because I know that we have been broadcast wrong and diagnosed wrong when it comes to crime in the country. We do have high crime in the country, but we don't have a high crime towards our visitors come to the shores. We do have poach snatching. We do have a few incidents of rape and etc. We do have these particular incidents. But we also must bear in mind that some of these incidents that have been reported have gone to court, and we have recently seen about a year or two ago where someone was accused of this particular incident, lost their job, went to prison, and then when they got their lawyers, we got to find out that the rape allegation that was against him was a false allegation, all right? But we do have these incidents in our country. And I would like to say to sports, tourism sports, jet ski guys, boating guys, and anyone in the hospitality business of dealing with our tourists that comes to our shores. But first, let me complete about the 100 I was talking about. When we have 100+ murders in the country, it's 100 behemoths in the country, all around the country. And rarely we have like about 1 or 2 tourists. If you look at the cost of the Bahamian history, I don't think we have more than about 20 tourists in the last 50, 75 years have been killed in Nassau, New Providence. I don't think we have about 10, But we just recently, and I spoke on that, but we just recently had an incident in Andros where we saw a British family who recently, they're from Germany, I guess, and they frequented the Bahamas for many, many years. And according to the information received, the guy who was involved, this is still before the court, so I'm just reading what the newspaper said, and the guy who was carrying them on tours, he heard something and he decided to take it in his own hands and like people things, don't want to go work for you, got paid from the guests. They're actually being living here, coming here and visiting, so they're just like behemoths themselves, just that they go back, they want to visit. And these gentlemen, and they pay these guys, but he decided that he wanted these people things. And he went, didn't think it over one bit, didn't think about the consequences that is coming after you make this decision. Anytime you see something easy, it's never going to turn out the way you want. So they thought it was probably going to be easy robbery. And for me, we have to make a prime example of persons like these young men if they're convicted, if these are the suspects or culprits involved in these matters. We're going to have to make a prime example of persons like that, because the damage they're doing to us as a whole, as a country, is unacceptable, because the gas is off limits to us, sexually even. For the sports operators, the jet ski operators, anyone who in close contact with our guests when they come to the shore, and especially if you're an employee or a manager, You know, your job is hospitality. Your job is not to get sexually inclined with your clients, you know. So we have to put restriction in place that even our lifeguards, our jet ski operators, our taxi drivers, and etc. As long as you're on a job, you should be restricted from, how I should say, having a relationship with or trying to flirt while you're on the job with the guests, because it's very harmful, it's very dangerous. Sometimes we, as people, don't understand the nature of making, you think you're making a good choice, but eventually it could turn into a bad choice. And then you can end up in some serious complication, and then you complicate our country. So I just like to advise persons who own jet ski or who are owners of these particular business and hotels and stuff like that, tell your staff that those female guests, those male guests, tell the females, the male guests are off limit. Tell the female persons who are either waiters or waitresses that the guests are off limit. You have to tell the guests that the waiter is off limits as well, you know, because it goes two ways too. You understand? Because some people get advance on Bahamians because they come here to have a great time and we're Bahamians and we're so nice, and then, you know, so it goes two ways. So we need to put restriction in place to protect us so we can protect ourselves also. Sometimes we got to put measures in place to protect ourselves from, you know, you understand what I'm saying? Yes, we have to, because it could get very, very drastic. And in that particular case, these particular individuals, I'm just saying what was read in the newspaper, I mean on Facebook, and I think they got charged there before the court. I think Assistant Commissioner of Police, B.K. Barnaby, flew down there, and I can tell you what B.K. Barnaby, he is going to get the job done. B.K. Barnaby Jr. is one of the best investigators and one of the best officers in the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And he's a very compassionate, considerate police officer, you know. I guess he inherited that from his late father, B.K. Barnaby Sr., but nonetheless, he got the job done in swift time. And then if you listen to the circumstances, how the guy, one of the guys got caught, he told them where the firearm was. Didn't think it over, you know. A moment's pleasure now is going to cost you guys the rest of your life. And you might even, I mean, they don't hang, you know, but you never know. This could, you never know. You never know. I'm not looking for no one to get hanged, you know, but in some circumstances, you know, it is what it is. You know, I had a friend, David Mitchell, in 2000, last person to get hanged. We used to hang together, and he was convicted for a double murder of, I think, of an Australian tourist in the island of Ilucho Abaco. I can't quite remember. And in 2 years' time, he was hung. Mind you, now there were about 200-300 Bahamians who got killed way before these guests. But that case was fast-tracked, and it was a big international incident. We had senior cops like Douglas Hahn and Warry Sanders. Them flew down to that island. They tore that island up, and they got David Mitchell. He was brought from the family island, brought back, airlift here, back here, put before the courts, convicted in, I think, in about a year or so. And within two years, he was hung. And like I said, we had other people killed and were tried and were brought guilty. But like I said, this was an international matter. And he got hung. And he was a friend of mine. He lived in Mason Addition. I was living across H Street. And we knew one another because we were in various different gangs. But he and I were cool. And he got hanged in 2000, last person who got hanged. And he got hanged, like I said, for getting convicted for the death of two tourists that visited our shores. And like I said, business owners, if you're in the tourism industry and you have workers, talk to your workers, tell them this is professional, keep it professional, You know, if you want to, you do that in your own time. Okay? If you want to go and talk to the guests, well, find out from them where to meet. But while you're on the job is a no-no. And it goes all across the board in the Bahamas. And we need to put those regulations in place. You know, those who know. Tourism industry, especially with sports fishing and etc. The same goes to you guys. You know, we only here to serve. We're not here to get no sexual intercourse with our guests, male or female. Yeah, and so we have to make an example out of these individuals, because the consequences, I think the tourism industry brings about 65 to 70% of our revenue in the country. Could you imagine that being tarnished by the mistakes of individuals on these particular jobs who forget what their job description is? All right? So keep that in mind. So I'm just saying that to all the sports fishermen, all of the jet ski operators, all of the guys who get the stalls down the fish fry and etc., all who work in the straw market. Yes, because we can damage ourselves. And if we lose the tourism industry, which is actually $1 billion industry, and we have not touched the market. This gentleman who went downtown, man, snatching tourist purse caught on camera. Let me just read the script. And photos of a man snatching a tourist purse downtown went viral. The incident took place on Bay Street near McDonald's. Photos circulated on social media. A man seen approaching two people and snatching a woman's purse. The woman fell to the ground during the incident. When asked by reporters about the matter, police liaison officer, Chief Superintendent Skippings told reporters on the sideline of an event that police are actively investigating. She could not confirm, but it happened. And persons like this have to be taught an example. They have to make an apology to that particular tourist. They have to make an apology to the country. And then they're going to get rehabilitated at Bahamas Correctional Institute. And they should not be allowed to go on Bay Street ever again. All right? And that's the kind of things I talk about. And it's unacceptable in our country, and especially downtown. Was he thinking? Was it desperation that would say, you know, he's downtown, there are cameras, there's police officers, you might not see them visible, but they're there. They patrol every 5 to 10 minutes down Bay Street. They walk around every 5, 10 minutes. And he took a chance downtown Bay Street. You know how embarrassing that looked? For us as a country, but for him, you know, but for us as a country. But look at the response time and how the citizens and the police came and they caught the culprit. And that's what I'm talking about, sincerity and the common goal of the Bahamian people, how they took into action and they protected the guests. And I know that when the police had an opportunity to speak to the two ladies that were shown on social media, I know our police apologize on behalf of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and for the incident that that young man who, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he think he could get away. I don't know what he was thinking, but he couldn't have been thinking straight. And we should be careful who we allow to go downtown. If you're downtown wandering, I think you should have one identification in your pockets, because, you know, we can't have people going out there selling drugs and doing excessive illegal activity. So we need some identification downtown Bay Street. You know, as far as the eye can see when it comes to these things, because with this, it would keep those who are thinking about doing ill will towards our guests would think twice about going down Bay Street or the fish fry because they know the police is going on. Ask them for identification if they can't verify and have a good reason for being down there, or if they're not accompanied somebody down there. But they're hanging around. Hanging around now, people. Hanging around. Just they on Bay Street standing up all day. They're not waking. They're lingering around. Yeah, those type. Because some people are not civilized and they are opportunists. And we can't allow that to happen in our country. All right? I just wanted to run it by. And on behalf of us as a nation, I would like to say to the ladies, I know they're not listening to the show, but for those who live abroad, that in the Bahamas, we are a tourist destination country. We have our internal problem. We have a black on black situation going on in our country. And we're trying our best to deal with it best way possible. But the Bahamas is a place where you can come and visit and enjoy your time here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because you're around some of the most wonderful, kind-hearted people in the world. It's just that we have some loose screws in our country, and we're going to try to do our best to bring hope to many of our citizens in the country. Because if you really look around the country today, there are so many young men and so many young ladies are just going out of their mind at a fast rate because they have no hope and no future. So all this ties into what's really going on in our country today. Yeah. Okay. So let me get to my topic. It's 6:56. Let me see where I'd start from. Okay, as we look at global warming and climate change, to me, this is the greatest threat to humankind. I believe in the prophecy, but I also believe that man is going to be their own destruction. I believe that global warming and climate change is happening because of greed, of not understanding the consequences of cutting down the trees, of digging in the earth for oil, what it's doing, polluting the ocean with nuclear waste. Most importantly, I've been doing some research, and I was always wondering, where all of our waste go. When we use the bathroom, when we pee, and when we, all that stuff. And someone was telling me, say, we gather it and dump it in the ocean. Oh, man. So if the majority of countries, they treat it first before they put it in the ocean. So if the majority of countries around the world, you can imagine all the bleach, all of the different detergents and et cetera, thousands of gallons, and we just pour in the ocean. All of this is destroying the earth when you really look at it. We might not take it as a big problem, but when you really look at it, we had conch poisoning out there, and we was wondering why we had the conch poisoning. But when they checked the tanks out there about 20 years ago, they found that the tanks was leaking and the raw sewer was going in the current from Pardusky Dock. And every time we had the bottom feeders that we were housing, and we put them in the water at Pardusky Dock or at Fish Fry, because in that vicinity, the current would flow from Pardusky Dock right and left. So the pollution was spreading straight down to Prince George Wharf, straight down to Junkanoo Beach, straight down to Fish Fry in that vicinity. And in there was pollution for all our waste. We're not only doing this, but, we're going to have to find ways on how we're going to have to get rid of our waste in a better way. It's going to take about 50 years. Just like it's going to take us about 50 years to get a fossil fuel. In the Bahamas, I think it takes us 50 to 100 years to get a fossil fuel. I take places like the States, probably 50 to 100 years. Germany is trying to break down their emission, go in more solar and et cetera. China's just made a huge solar panel grid. And also China is one of the reasons why we're also having global warming, because their emissions are one of the highest in the world. And not only because of that, China has created a dam. This dam is one of the biggest dams in the world. But that dam, even though it was meant to do well, supply with electricity and etc., you know what the dam has done? It has slowed down the Earth rotation by a couple fractions. Hard to believe how we want new technology, but we are not understanding the importance of sometimes we just leave things the way they are, and they put a dam there. And that dam now has stopped the Earth rotation by milliseconds. So what other things have we done to the Earth that is causing us to face global warming and climate change? Drilling for oil. See, the whole issue is, I don't think we're so smart as human beings. Just like I talked about the COVID-19, and the leaders in the World Health Organization gave us all these suggestions and these ideas, and they're right. Come to find out they were wrong. Okay? So the leaders of the world, I don't think they're too smart. I don't think they're too smart. If we don't classify the Earth as a living organism, meaning, right, this is my philosophy, meaning it's living, we have to treat it with due care. And we have to find any way of hurting our mother. We talk about God, right? Think about this. We talk about God. We talk about Jesus. And they say, man is in the likeness of God, right? Man, Adam, had Eve, right? So what if God helps somebody too? What if we have a symbiote? What if the earth is actually the wife of God and the earth is a symbiote? If you watch, what I'm saying, a symbiote, if you watch, what's the movie now? I got it right there. Oh, I got it right in my head, man. Well, a symbiote is like when you watch Godzilla. He was more like a dinosaur, but his wife was a butterfly. But them two, they work together and they're compatible. It's like also flea on a dog, symbiote. They're working together. Now the flea is doing damage to the dog, but they need one. The flea need the dog in order to survive, right? But it's a symbiote. So what if God and the earth is symbiote? What if the earth is actually God's wife? Because the books tell you that the heavens are going to come down to the earth, and the new heaven is going to be on earth. Why on earth? Because we don't know the importance. We don't really understand what's going on. And as I get older, I start to open my mind, and I say, wow, we really describing mother. We really describing the earth. So the earth is a living organism, and we're digging in the crust, and we're taking the earth. The earth that is in Mother Earth is a lubricant, and it serves a purpose. It helps the earth rotate. All of the volcanoes in the world are connected. Under the sea, on top of the sea. And they let out pressure. Okay? All of them serve a purpose for the earth. The ozone layer serves a purpose to the earth. It stops the sun rays from coming in. We build space shuttles. And we want to explore. So we say we explore. We burst through the ozone layer with space shuttle. And scientists saw why there were these big gaps in the ozone layer, and the sun was just coming out scorching heat. And many people were getting skin burning when these heat waves come. And it's because we were damaging the ozone layer when a rocket ship goes through, it bursts a big hole through Mother Earth. And then the sun rays comes in, and it's very harmful, and it destroys. So what they did, they look at the rocket fuel, and the rocket fuel that the rockets were going up into orbit with, they found that the rocket fuel was also damaging the ozone layer. So they changed the rocket fuel about 25 years ago. All right? So we describe the earth all over. They're cutting down the trees in the Amazon. The Amazon in Brazil produces so much carbon dioxide, which produces oxygen in return. And this is proven. Without Brazil and the Amazon rainforest, we wouldn't have no Earth. The ecosystem would completely collapse. There was research went on in Florida where all of the wolves, went extinct because man decided to kill all the wolves in another part of Florida, in the Everglades Park. And after the wolves went extinct, at least man made them go extinct, a few years ago, they were wondering why all the dares were just multiplying at a fast rate. They wonder why the screams, and the fishes dried up. It wasn't like a lot of fish. It was abundance when the wolf was around. That's why I tell you everything is connected. And then they show you where the dares was just breeding, and they wasn't afraid. They just was going places where the grasses would normally get eaten in that particular spot, because when wolves were around, the wolves would be hiding there, so the dares would know the wolves hiding there, and they wouldn't go there. They would be in open ground. But the dares now were going to the trees, and they were getting all the herbs and all these nutrients. And all these nutrients, and then when it rained, these was to go down in the river, and this was nourishing the river and making the fish them big and healthy, and making the wildlife and everything around there rich. And it was given the area and the water vitamins. And so someone brought the idea of let's bring the wolf back. You could check this on your Facebook. You could check this on Google, and you could Google it up as I speak right now. And when they introduced the wolf again back in the park, all of a sudden the dares no longer was going in these particular spots. So the forest changed, the habitat changed, the fish started to spawn again, Everything started to go back to normal now because the wolf was introduced. So, before I get to my next point, I also watched another documentary, and I hope I don't get to like Kanye West. He's speaking some truth, but what he's speaking about is actually the truth. And I would say, we reach a point in our lives where we know what's happened in the past. We just have to move on the best of our ability to get strong and to understand the mistakes we made and continue to strive to be a better people. We are not a people of hate. Okay, we're not a people of racism. People could be racism against us, that's their business. Okay? But we're not those type of people. Yes, we got damaged. Yes, we got in the slave trade. What we're going to do? We're going to go back in the past and we're going to inflict pain and hurt? No, our forefathers suffered, prospered, and died for us to be here, so that we can become stronger, so that we can make our brothers and sisters stronger, so that we can have a better life. All right? So, yeah. All right. Let me see what I was going to say now. So could you play the thing about this great man, Sir David? I want you guys to just listen to this. This man is one of the greatest humanitarian in the world, especially for the Mother Earth. Okay.
Course of my life, I've encountered some of the world's most remarkable species of animals. Only now do I realize just how lucky I've been. Many of these wonders seem set to disappear forever.
The UN panel of experts has found that 1 million animal and plant species face extinction.
It is worse than expected. This is happening much faster than we've ever seen before.
Today, we are the asteroid that that's causing many, many species to go extinct simultaneously.
The evidence is that unless immediate action is taken, this crisis has grave impacts for us all.
We're not just losing nice things to look at, we're losing critical parts of Earth's system.
And it's threatening our food, our water, our climate.
We're encroaching further and further every day into wildlife habitat, and that drives emerging diseases.
If we carry on like this, we will see more epidemics as bad as this, and some of them could even be worse.
It's never been more critical for us to understand what is driving this crisis. Scientists have identified the key ways in which we humans are destroying the ecosystems on which we depend.
There are many ways to remove pieces of the puzzle. The most obvious way is to kill something, and we do a lot of that.
We're talking about millions of animals being snatched from the wild, from thousands of species.
We have massive and widespread overfishing.
We're completely destroying the natural balance of fish in the world's oceans.
When I was a kid in the 1960s, there were 3 billion people in the world. And I'm now probably going to see it actually reach, 9 billion in my lifetime, which is pretty startling.
Population growth is much, much higher in the developing world than in the developed.
But it's problematic to just talk about population because there are two things which are going on. It's population, but it's also consumption.
And in terms of impact on the planet, what's much more important is the growth in consumption levels. And these are far higher in the developed economies.
While in a country like the United Kingdom, we have some very strong laws on how to reduce pollution, we do have to realize we're no longer a major industrial country. Most of the things that we actually use are produced abroad in countries where the laws can be non-existent. So we're simply moving our footprint on destroying nature to another country.
Many people imagine there's this untouched wilderness because they see it on their TV screens. But the reality is there's really not a lot of wild left out there.
We've converted 75% of the land that is not covered by ice.
3/4 of the terrestrial surface has been changed, a lot of it just to feed one species.
All of the calculations show we're on track for a 3 to 4 degree world. And the more the Earth warms, the worse the problem is.
There are lots of ways that climate change will impact on species. These are no longer predictions, we are seeing it happen.
For those of us who care about the future of our planet, we have to look at our lifestyles and we can't look away from our own behaviors.
40 years ago, people consumed a good deal less in the United Kingdom. But there is no evidence that we were unhappier then than we are now.
We can be more diligent about thinking about what we're consuming and when.
It's really digging down, saying, what's going on here? Where does that come from?
We need to think about meat and dairy consumption.
That's not to say that none of us should ever eat meat or should cut all dairy out of our diets, but we have to demand that they are produced sustainably.
We also need to start producing affordable food without expanding any further into the forest. This is indeed quite possible.
That's just about the food part about it, okay? That's just the food part about it. That's not the effect of drilling, cutting down the trees, okay? Building submarines and then dumping the sub can't be retrieved. There's an accident, the sub can't be retrieved. In the Caribbean, somewhere close to the Bahamas, there's a sub that is actually assumed to be leaking nuclear waste. And they had some type of talks running about Anderson, the cancer that is being spread in Anderson, etc. Back in the 1940s, 50s, I was doing some reading, and they say there was a barge that was pulled with nuclear waste. It was denied entry in the Bahamas, but according to some documents that I was reading, if I could remember, it was the U.S. that said, they're still going to dump it, and they dump it in Bahamian waters. And they say around this time they put cement on it, and they dump it in the ocean, and it's still there today. And they're saying it should be deteriorating right now, and the nuclear waste should be leaking out, but it wouldn't be harmful to the environment because the salt water would dilute it. But what about the fishes that are surrounding these particular areas? You see a lot of fishes have mercury. Sounds familiar? You see a lot of fish. They're saying a lot of fishes studies have been done here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and in Florida, which is in close proximity, and they're telling you where mercury has been found in the fish. All right? We had a disaster in Japan a few years ago where there was an explosion with a nuclear reactor, and radioactive waste is still leaking in the ocean. They have shown where they're taking samples from sharks and whale. They're finding, what the thing is, they're finding the TNT inside the sharks now, and mercury. And all of this is because of pollution. And this is spreading around the country. And who's doing it? Mankind. Down in Ukraine, with the Chernobyl nuclear power plant that went down about 20, 25 years ago, was releasing nuclear waste. It most brought a nuclear meltdown to the world, and etc. And it's still giving out radioactive waste. A part of Chechnya is unpopulated. They're showing the growths of the animals there. Animals are thriving again in the community, but they have traces of radiation in them. Some of them come deformed. Some of them are extra large, and etc. So it has its effects. So the food we're eating now is being polluted by our stupidity of creating nuclear weapons. Can't find a way to get rid of the nuclear waste, and etc. And all of this is destroying the earth. We're poisoning the ocean with the nuclear waste. We're dumping our waste, urine, our feces, our turtle tissue, our greasy oil, everything. And we're putting this big container out west Bay Street, if I'm correct. And then when we want to get rid of it, we treat it, and then we put it in the ocean. When I was younger, I used to be swimming on Long Wharf Beach, and the cruise ship used to be in the port. And then all of a sudden, we'd see like a lot of little fishes jumping out the water, just running, jumping out the water. And then we'd be in the water for a little bit. Then all of a sudden, we'd get itchy, and the water just changed from cold or just get warm, and then it get itchy. Then you say, but hey, itching. And we thinking that jellyfish, but all kind of little spots coming on us. Then someone would say, hey, come with the water. You can't see that? That was the cruise ship leaking out there, sewage around that vicinity, I could also recall this many years ago, and it was true because we had reports of it here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the pollution of the cruise ship. They show you how much pollution the cruise ship does, when they let out their emissions in the air, and how devastating it is to the atmosphere. So, yes, yes. And the earth is our mother. Let me just tell everyone that. The earth is our mother. And the thing is with me, see, I'm a conspiracy theory, but I believe people just don't have no regard for the Ten Commandments. No, the Indians who lived in South Florida before the Europeans arrived, they were living quite comfortable with the animals. And this is history. And this brought on what you call it? I forget what kind of, it's something like frozen, but anyway. And the Indians were living in the Americas. Seminole Indians, black and etc. Indians, along with Indians, Seminole Indians and blacks, and you know what I mean. And they were here, and they were in the millions. And they live by nature. They kill what is necessary to kill. So they would see the bison and they would like shoot one of the bison or two of the bison to feed the whole tribe. They ain't shooting no 100 bison or no 200 bison because they know they want to be sustainable. And the trees, they never cut down the trees. You know, they know if they were to cut down trees, they would pray and then they would cut down the tree and ask and beg apologize to Mother Nature for cutting down the tree because they know the importance of the tree. The tree is a living organism, all right? And they would use it for firewood, but they never build tents out of it. They would use it to either build the frame for their hut. You know, they never use wood to build houses. And they live by nature, and nature was flourishing. Buffalo, wolf, all the animals were flourishing, the deer, everything was flourishing. When the Great Expansion came and the Europeans reached, and they were greeted by the Indians, Seminole Indians, and etc. They came with hatchets and saws, and they didn't respect nature the way how the Indians respected nature. And when they came there, it was a warm climate. And when they came there, they cut down the trees, start cutting down the trees, building a concrete jungle or wood jungle, right? And they just destroyed, just cut down. Now, I don't think they didn't know what they was doing. They just was doing it because that's the technology at the time. But they was not taught to preserve, you know. They just was destructive. And they cut down all of the trees, majority of the trees. And they started to hunt the animals that were important to nature, you know, because like I said about the wolf, the bear, all of them serve a purpose. Just like I talk about the bee. If the bee dies today, the whole world dies. Okay? So it's no difference. Every animal, even the trees, the fishes, everything is connected. And they came and they cut down the trees. They started to kill up all the animals. That's why we talk about the extinctions of animals. You know, killing the beavers, the deers, the bears. They started to kill everything. Everything, every animal. And some of these animals they didn't need to kill. They did it because back home, that's money. You know, you could build a hat, your rabbit hat or your bear jacket, etc. You know, your purse, your nice snake shoes and everything. They started to kill everything. But anyway, the moral of the story is they even started to kill little native Indians who greet them and show them hospitality. And they push them back, and eventually winter came. And because they cut down all the trees, it was around spring. They changed the climate. So when they cut down all the trees, they killed all the animals, right? Winter came in. Okay, and it became snowy. So they changed the plane of America. You understand? So when you have people who don't respect the environment, you know, we don't keep the country clean, we cut down the trees, we want to dig for oil, we want to pollute the ocean, we want to overfish for greed. You know, we have to help our mother, all of us, our mother. And her name is Mother Earth. And she is hurting. And if she fights back and she gets mad and she have to defend herself, you know what is going to happen? We will face extinction. Let me just tell you all something. What do you think the Great Flood was all about? No one believes in the Great Flood. Okay? But let me tell all those who don't believe. Look at any recorded history in Chinese, Japanese, England, Portugal, Africa, or whatever. All of them have a similar story. And if you don't believe their story, right? Go look in the desert. And if the desert was not once water, then I am telling you a lie. The majority of the desert that man walk on today were once rivers and seas, okay? They find shark tooths in these deserts, right? In the mountains in these deserts, they found fish what you call them now when they live, their fish bones and etc. They found shark tooths, megalodon, and all kind of different shark tooths in the desert. And the desert all around the world. So that means it was water. So you don't have to believe there's a great flood, right? And as far as I'm concerned, I believe that man was 10 times more sophisticated than we are today, because the Great Pyramid explained that. And then we find some extraordinary things that scientists can't even explain, right? So if we're so smart now, why we can't explain the pyramids? Why we can't explain like how certain things were made and etc.? Because man was 10 times smarter than what we are today. And the reason why the Lord flooded the earth, because we became a nation of technology and didn't respect nature. And that's why the earth was flooded. And I believe in all my heart that after the second remaking of the earth, because it was the second remaking of the earth. Remember, after the great flood, that was the first earth. Then after the flood, the earth diaphragm changed. So when people say Africa is the birthplace of mankind, to me, it's not, because if you read the scriptures closely, listen to me closely, listen closely. Africa is the second birth of mankind, because the first birth of mankind was the Garden of Eden, and remember, everything got flooded out. Africa is where Noah land, right? And that's why there are animals that you see in abundance in Africa. The majority of the world animals in Africa, I think 60 to 70%. So Africa is the second to me, because I study. It's the second birthplace of mankind. That's when Noah land after the great flood. The earth diaphragm changed after the flood. Places that we're talking about now obtains we name after the great flood. But before the great flood, we can't name those places. That's why we're seeing cities in Japan and China. Even in the Bahamas, we're finding pyramids in the waters. Am I lying? We ain't find pyramids in the Bahamas, Bermuda Triangle, and they find these pyramids go far as Egypt. So what that means, everything was connected. So man, to me, were 10 times smarter than they are today. And now we're heading on that destruction again. And we're not learning nothing. You know, for me, when I look at movies, people say, well, movies ain't real. You ever watch these movies and you would see like Star Trek and we live in the earth because we use up the earth resources. How many movies have you watched over the years? Scientific movies, sci-fi movies, and it shows you the earth getting destroyed because we use up all the resources. You watch Superman, right? And you saw that, what the city name now? What Superman planet name now? What's Superman planet name now? Krypton. You saw Krypton, right? And as smart as Superman daddy was, as smart as the other scientist was, the council, the scientists who telling them, if we don't stop this, what did they give? Crypto? What did they? Krypton? Krypton will be destroyed. That's David Attenborough talking to us. That's Captain Planet talking to us. You understand? These people talking to us and telling us we're going to have just like this. But see, we think these things is movies and these things can't happen to us, but they happen to us. And you saw Superman's dad, Kal-El, tell them on the council that if we don't stop using up our planet's resources, what is going to happen? So, if you don't believe what I'm saying, why are we trying to go to this space? Listen to me. Because of the population, you had a person talking about 3 million, there were 3 billion or 4 billion humans on Earth. Now that's about 9 billion. And he's talking about how are we going to be able to deal with this population. And we have a depopulation, okay? So why do you think man is going to the moon? They estimate in a certain time if we keep this up, there ain't gonna be no earth for us. People ain't understanding what's really going on, you know. Y'all ain't really understand what's really going on with the world. I want y'all to think today. Listen, understand what's going on in the world. The same movies y'all be watching. All right, you don't believe me when I talk about movies. Y'all ever see Resident Evil? Dying just like the COVID-19 pandemic. What happened? Watch Resident Evil. You'll see the outbreak start in China. And you see what they do, human experiment on the lady. And then you see they put down the lockdown restrictions just like what happened all over the world. So if you don't believe it, the movie ain't real. But in this just happened in real life. Let me tell you all something. Open your eyes. Protect Mother Earth. All right? Why do you think they're trying to go to the moon? You don't see they're trying to build a space place where people could go in space and so indirectly see if they could create livable homes in the near future on Mars? Because they know if we keep this up, and some people is not going to stop. Like I said, if the world want to stop emissions and global warming, right? They're going to decrease drilling for oil and find alternative solutions like turbine power, solar power, you know, wind power, and etc. But it's going to take 50 to 100 years. And then these companies that are making billions of dollars, you think they're going to sacrifice and listen to Captain Planet or David Attenborough, which they are, but they're going to do it at a slow pace. Right now, the war in Ukraine more important than global warming. And this is the UN resolution to bring emission down, and the world leaders and the world's greatest country, America, France, Germany, and all of the allies, even Russia, China, have agreed to bring down emissions by a certain time. But because of the war in Ukraine, they're saying, the UN is saying now their priority is now more concerned about Ukraine than climate change and global warming. You could disagree with my argument, but I gave you facts. All right? And to me, I don't think the earth is ever going to be destroyed by water ever again, because the Father said that he'd never flood the earth again. But he did say there'd be trials and tribulation if we don't do what we're supposed to do, protecting the trees, protecting the fishes, protecting Mother Earth. We will feel a wrath. And if Mother Earth have to defend herself and her back against the world, we gotta go. And she's gonna be here. So pay attention. If you want to comment on climate change and you have any suggestions, and my last point I'm going to make, this goes to our leaders of the country, whether in the opposition or you're the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. You have a great task ahead of you. You're talking about climate change and global warming. But I also want you to know to bear in mind that you're talking about these things, but are you talking to the major companies that are polluting the earth? You know, BPL, if we were to go with alternative energy, it'd take us like 50 to 100 years to get rid of a station like BPL. Okay? So in the meantime, the government is going to have to find ways of finding solutions like alternative measures. So the government's going to consider allowing homeowners to put solar on their houses and tie in the BEC. We're going to have to find a grid and do that and find alternative solutions for electricity instead of using fossil fuel like the oil. Now, like I said, it's going to take about 50 years for us to get off oil, but we can start making a reduction now by bringing an alternative measure. Now, I say to the Prime Minister, sir, you're going to have to make the Bahamas sustainable with energy. We have many family islands out there. We can make solar plants. We can make bento brine. These are some of the things that were presented at the opening of the Parliament a few days ago on a speech from the throne from the Governor General. And I listened attentively, and there are some good solutions. We have to make those number one priorities. Because like I say, the earth is talking to us. We are heard now. Yes. And I'm going to say this again. What if the earth is God's woman? What if? How we know? Who could say I wrong? What other planet out there is living? Isn't the earth living? Producer, is the earth living? Do you believe the earth could feel? You think so? Okay. We would all you would agree on that because you see the green trees. You feel the air. You can't see it, but you feel it. But you see it when you go in the freeze or in the cold, you see the air. So, and the earth provides that. It provides all our food. So the earth is a living organism. So that's why I say we're not too smart. We are not considering the earth as a living organism. All right? And like I said, that if the world don't consider the earth as our mother and should be treated like our mother. So why we call it Mother Earth or Mother Nature? We call it Mother Earth, then we call it Mother Nature. Why do we call it that? There's a reason why we call it Mother Earth. Because it's all of our mothers. Your mother ain't even your mother. Your mother come from the earth. So when you're saying woman is the creation of mankind, no. Or man is the, no. We all wrong. The earth, mother, and God. Because they say the Father created the heaven and earth, but the earth was void. And he created the heaven and earth. And he provided the air, the ocean, the moon, the sun, and etc. And life began to roam on the earth. And it's the reason why I believe that the Father created man. I think he was the fourth or fifth to make. Because he knew very well if he created man at first, and he put the animals second or third, we would have wiped out all animals. So what God did was before he made man, he made sure he put animals millions of years ahead before he made man. He let the animals multiply all over the world because he could see in the future. And he knew when the covenant was broken with Adam, when he influenced him to eat the apple, or whatever your story is. He very well knew what was about to happen when we got knowledge and we started eating meat and etc. So that's why he created the animals first and created the trees first. Just like how we deforestation, all of the trees around the world. And there's the effects of that. Mudslides happen when you take away the trees. Okay? The animals that live in the trees die. The bees cannot put their beehives. Animals would travel from tree to tree and drop their droppings to create new life. The seeds they eat, they can't transport those seeds anymore to regrow. We're losing species of plants and animals at a fast pace, and you know who's doing that? Us. So when you see one extinct animal going, we're next. We're down the line. Everything is tied in. So if you want to call in, the numbers tonight are 325-4316, 325-4259, if you want to call in. Feel free to join the conversation. If not, remember, the cars, for us as Bahamians, Conkaleo, who speak highly about the Bahamas, and he has a passion for the Bahamas, but he has a passion for Mother Earth. He talks about the removal of cars, talks about the removal of all the bulk waste around the country, and abandoned houses that has a lot of garbage in it, etc. We as citizens have to report these abandoned houses and cars and etc. and do our part as to help Mother Earth. It's like leeches on Mother Earth. Let's clean up Mother Earth. Let's just clean up Mother Earth. So let me read what climate change. What's the difference between global warming and climate change? Climate change and global warming are often used interchangeable but have distinct meaning. Similarities. The terms weather and climate are sometimes confused, though they refer to events with broadly different and time scales. Weather refers to atmospherical conditions that occur locally over short periods of time from minutes to hours or days. Familiar examples include rain, snow, clouds, winds, floods, or thunderstorms. Climate, on the other hand, refers to long-term, usually at 30 years, regional or even global average of temperature, humidity, and rainfall patterns over season years or decades. Global warming is the long-term heating of Earth's surface, observed since the pre-industrial period. Now listen, remember I talked about the Europeans arriving? See, it's good to read. And see, I'm telling the truth. Now listen, global warming is a long-term heating of Earth's surface observed since the pre-industrial period. When the pre-industrial period came around between 1850 and the 1900s due to human activities, primarily fossil fuel burning, which increased heat trapping, greenhouse gas levels in Earth's atmosphere. This term is not interchangeable with the term climate change. Now you understand what I'm saying? See? You see? From between 1850 and 1900s, due to human activities, that's the major oil companies, steel companies, mining companies, and etc., looking to get that black gold, which is in the Earth's crust, which is the Earth. And like I tell people, the Earth serves a purpose for the Earth. Yes, we can take some, but now we get greedy. We ain't want to stop. What would happen if we dry out all the Earth or the Earth? You don't think it's gonna have some type of effect on the planet? Huh? You think about it. We need to be moving away from digging for oil. So my advice to the Honorable Prime Minister, which I think he's doing a fantastic job, him and his government, I would advise him, if he's talking about global warming and climate change, and he really ain't just for the platform or going for the trip around the world to speak to these international governing body about these matters, and he's really, really concerned about global warming and climate change, he should know that the effects of oil drilling is one of the main reasons we are having climate change, because when we dig for oil, we refine it. We hurt the earth when we're drilling. We leave this hole that cannot be closed back up ever again. There's pressure coming out from the earth, just like the volcano. This could be excess pressure. And sometimes it builds up. We saw a few years ago when our oil rig caught fire because of the pressure build-up. And that started fighting back. So I would advise our Honorable Prime Minister to think about canceling our oil drilling contracts in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and he should make it mandatory that no oil drilling should be occurring in the Bahamas at all, because we don't need it. Yes, there's millions and billions of dollars to be made, but what we need it for, and we have the marine industry, we have the tourism industry, we have our natural resources. We don't need to get greedy. We don't need that. Some things we just don't need. Some of these countries don't need to be doing all of these excess stuff, like when it comes to taking for oil. It's just that greed, and you can't see it's hurting us. You understand? So, Mr. Prime Minister, protect our waters, protect our land and sea parks, protect our trees. For one, we know people are manufacturing coal in the Bahamas. If we allow the coal production in the country, we also consider the effects it has on the environment, cutting down the trees, which in turn keeps the water table pure. We cut down these trees and we damage the earth just to make coal. I think there should be restriction on how we mine, how we make coal and mine coal in the country. I think we have a lot of rotten trees, trees that can be burned and turned into coal. So let's harvest those, because we need to maintain the forest, because there's a lot of trees that drop. And we could help by doing that, and then you could turn those into coal. Ain't nothing wrong with doing that. The dry wood and some of the trees can be removed. We also consider when we're making subdivisions, where we're making them, it could be a habitat, which is more important than building houses. We might have to reroute. When we do survey these plots of land that we're looking to build new homes for Bahamian people, I'm all for that. But at the same time, when I really think about it, we needed to think about, the environment. Are we harming the bees? Are we harming the lizard? Are we harming the butterflies? Are we harming whatever wildlife is there just to build houses? We probably have to say, let's designate some of these sites as wildlife parks around the country. Like I said, if all the bees die in the world, that's it for mankind. As simple as the bees. I talked about the wolf. I hope you all check it out in research and see that what I'm talking is actually true. You could see that certain animals, once they're taken out, the ecosystems collapse because every animal serves a purpose. What would happen if we took the lion out Africa? What thing would happen? If we took the lion out of Africa, then there would be no more king of the beasts. There would be no one to be afraid of. And then it just be completely chaos, and after a while, all animals will die. Simple as that. You don't think so? Okay, I got a few more minutes. 7:47. Prime example. Europeans again. There's lack of knowledge, and when they got the knowledge and the education, they stopped. One thing with them, they stopped it, but it took like 50 years. I'm talking about whaling. When the whaling period was around, when they were looking for oil, and they found out that oil was inside the head of the whales, and places, European places like Portugal and France and etc. went on a bloodlust, just went killing the whales, and thousands and hundreds, and it was a oil fiasco going on around the world. But it come at a cost because it led to overfishing. Killing the whales led to overfishing because now the whales serve a purpose. The whales are a conveyor belt for the ocean. You see, because the whale is the only animal that could go from the depth, the top of the ocean to the depths of the ocean. And when they go down to the depths of the ocean, light don't even go down there. And everything down there is in suspended animation. And it stays down there, so all the nutrients are there, and they can't get up to the surface. So what the whale does is when it goes down to get the squid and go feed with the plankton, it goes way down to the bottom of the ocean where light can't even go. So it goes down thousands of feet. And when it goes down to him and his family, and they go down and they upset the settlement, that's with their tail. And, it's like a bubble. So when they goes down and they do their tail, they bring all the nutrients back up to the surface so that the other fish and sea could spread and new life could come. And then they go on these roads, there are roads in the ocean, like maps, like road, like what we're walking on in the ocean. Currents, if you watch Godzilla, you'll see like where he went on this current tide, and it took him all the way around the world. Or if you watch Nemo the fish, you would see where Nemo went into the Gulf Stream, and it took him all around the world. And from satellite footage, they could show you these things. And they showed us the boaters and fishermen about the currents and how the current is carried. Even Coast Guard, when they're looking for persons who are lost at sea, they would look at the map and see where the Gulf and the current stream is going. They say, well, they went this way. Yes. Yeah, so the whales even serve a purpose. And we started to kill those, and then there was a fact, overfishing. And then they came to the conclusion, persons who was concerned, like David Attenborough, and there were other persons like David Suzuki or the Nature of the Things. He talked about these things too. And they realized that killing the whales at a high rate, they're becoming extinct. And the study started to show that it was devastating to the ocean and the effects of killing the whale. And then they started to stop killing the whale after petitions, and people took photos, and those great people, I can't remember those who were stopping those whaling ships out to sea. They were going out there and challenging those whaling ships. They're putting their lives on the line, and don't kill the whale. They're real humanitarian. And they were the ones who were the smartest set of people in the world. Those people are the smartest set of people in the world. Those people who had those organizations like the World Health Organization, some of them are nincompoops. But the people who I respect most is the ones who saw the dangers and got up and fought for it. Even though they don't have the government or the authority, they still use their activism to go there and say, no, this is not right, And then we went from that, killing the whales, we went to alternative fuel source. Then we went to Earl, we found Earl. And then when we found Earl, we went back in the next destruction. Now we're in this time where we found Earl, now we're trying to move on from Earl. So you see, it takes about 50 to 100 years for us to understand the mistakes that we're making, but it's too much over the course of the period that has been devastating to Mother Earth. How long do you think she could keep on pushing us off? She can't. She can't. I'll be talking about Mother Earth today. So the audience out there, do you believe I'm crazy or I'm talking foolishness on the radio? Let me if I make any sense, I'm a crazy man. But I can tell you one thing, she is talking to us. That's why we're talking about global warming and climate change. We have about 8 more minutes. Okay, let me just read something. All right. Scientists use observation from the ground, air, and space, along with computer models to monitor and study past, present, and future climate change. Climate data records provide evidence of climate change, key indicators such as global land and ocean temperatures increasing, rising sea levels, ice loss at Earth's poles and in the mountains, glaciers, frequency and severity changes in extreme weather such as hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires, droughts, foods, and perception and cloud and vegetation cover changes. Just recently, we had a wildfire fire in Australia that most devastated Australia, and I think it's going for close to almost a month. All right, we've had droughts in many countries around the world. We've had floods around the world. We've had hurricanes. We just recently had a hurricane Dorian just tear up Freeport and Grand Bahama a few years ago, and then we had a hurricane before that. All of this is because some are natural hurricanes to deal. That's Mother Nature hurricane. That is natural, that comes down. So push down the trees, the rotten leaves, and etc. Because hurricanes serve their purpose naturally in a natural environment. That's what we have taken care of Mother Earth. Some bushfires that happens in Australia is natural. That's a burning off. That is natural. That is necessary. That is just saying we have to get rid of some of this carbon dioxide and some of the leaves so it lights itself. Earth takes care of itself. See, things like that's why I'm saying Mother Earth lives. This is a natural occurrence, when I'm talking about, when I talk about the fires in Australia. Now that one there, the last one, I think that was someone accidentally like that. But fires that they say, would see sometime on the news, they'd say that was a natural fire. And that serves a purpose, And that's the earth. That's just Mother Earth. Just taking care of herself. Let's say combing her hair then, Yeah. All right. We get a caller? Okay, caller. Go ahead. You're on Inside in the City. You have about 3 minutes, but go ahead.
I only can take but 30 seconds.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, to your listeners, Paul here.
Go ahead, sir. Papa, what's up, man? I had a couple of months. What happened? You had the big jack party.
No, we're still thanking God for life.
Okay.
Yeah, I be listening to everything and stuff like that. I listen to you when you come on and stuff like that. No, I ain't at the jackpot. Just thank God to be alive.
Yes, sir.
Things could have been better and could have been. Got a lot to be grateful for.
Yes, sir.
I wish it was better, but I thank God it ain't worse than what it is.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Papa.
Okay, you asked a question, say we must call in to save you. Man, you're making sense. I think everything which you was talking about, some things I know from a long time, and some things I just learned. Like how you was breaking it up. You almost remind me, you almost sounded like Brave Davis to me, Prime Minister Davis. I never knew Mr. Davis was the sharpest. What I hear him talking around the world about carbon copy and credits and all of that stuff.
Yes.
I didn't know he had that inside of him.
Yes.
Same way with you. I know you smart and you know a lot of things. But when you break that down to us just now, I appreciate that. We need to hear them things sometime.
Yes.
No, you ain't getting too deep. You need to go deeper. Tell me something.
Go.
You know anything about like Bill Gates them and stuff?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You know, on this One American News was saying, you still there?
I'm still there listening, Papa.
See, this German guy is a professor. He's from Germany. He almost sounds like Hitler when he talking. They take a photo of him the other day where they had this G5 meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada was there. I think the President of China was there, and Biden, President of the United States. They take the picture together, and this man, he's a professor, and they get him in all of these meetings, him and a group of people like Bill Gates and the rest of them. They saying how the world could change and how we need to do things different. I don't know if they want to depopulate the earth or whatever, but
that's a part
it's
of
the
it.
kind of things we need to learn. I forget what the German man name. Maybe next week when I find out, I'll call you back and ask if you know anything about him.
Sound good.
He talking about how they influence the cabinets of the world, the different cabinets of governments, and they doing the things how they want them to do. That they want us to stop eating meat and eat the different things. They want us to stop doing certain things. Just live different wilds. I guess they go to the space and go to the moon and continue eating their chicken and lobster and caviar and different things. But I forget what the German man is. We need to hear these things that you're talking about. I just want to encourage you to continue to keep talking about these kind of things sometime.
Yes.
You need to know, how to.
And people say these conspiracy theories, but it's broad daylight. Like you saying you watch it, right?
Yeah, I listen to it. I listen to it right on the TV. I just need to follow it up some more. I forget what the German man name, but
I saw that piece of it.
Huh?
I saw that piece of it.
You know what the German man name?
I couldn't remember his name, but I saw the piece of you talking about.
Yeah, talking about how they done infiltrate all the cabinets of the world and how they get them doing it their way.
You want to see?
You can't say certain things. The free speech what we know we grew up with, like they can take it away. We can't say certain things.
The COVID-19 was all.
That's how they sign up on all them, what you call it, those vaccine the other day. It's part of that. And Bill Gates them. I thank God for Jesus, man. I thank God I connected him and just need to continue and be a vessel that he could use. And, they say be in the world but not of the world.
That's right, my
brother.
brother. Yes, that is true.
I appreciate people like you. Keep up the good work, my brother. Thank God for the Guardian and Scrooge.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, there are people out there who want to depopularize the earth. Don't care how you put it. You don't believe so? Okay, let me give you a prime example. How AIDS was created. You think AIDS is something that came about through sexual intercourse? That was designed. How cancer came about? All this was designed. All right? Guns were put in there about the depopularization. What do you think guns are for? All those things were a plan to depopularize the earth because of the same, they're too much. We went from 4 billion to 11 billion, and they're talking about the resources. That's why they want to stop us eating meat and stuff. And they want to also take away democracy, and that was proven with the COVID-19. And you had a guy talking about laying the world governments and etc. It's true. You understand? But We don't have to be in the world. What we need to do is protect ourselves, understand what's at stake. We have to be able to build our country strong. We have the great leaders who understand what's going on in the world. We could be in the world, but not of the world, and keep our commitment to protecting each and every one, protecting our wildlife, protecting our natural resources, and keeping our principle so that we know we'd set this country in the right direction for the next future generation of Bahamian people. Before I go, I want to thank Guardian Radio. I want to thank my guest. Poppy did a wonderful job calling in. And yes, this is Mother Earth. And again, to the Prime Minister, Mr. Davis, understand the consequences of drilling, how it affects the earth, and the earth itself is a living organism. We don't need no more oil. You understand? Let's go and find alternative measures, like the proclamation of the Governor General at the opening of a parliament, when we're going to turbine and solar and find other alternative measures. Okay? So I hope everyone enjoyed the show on Guardian Radio. My name is Valentino Brown, a.k.a. Scroogey. I'm the host of the show Inside NSC that premieres every Friday at 6:30 to 8 p.m. on Guardian Radio 96.9. So see you next week, and enjoy your Friday. Drive safe, and enjoy your Friday night.
From Dayton, bro. Don't take no back talk, no bribe or no joke. If you find fire, you definitely find smoke. Dayton, bro. Boy, I from Dayton, bro.